What's cooking, Keto fam? It's Friday at 5, so you know what that means. It's time for Is Vodka Keto. Hey everyone, I'm your host, John Terry, here with my beautiful co-host and mother, Geri Terry.
It just doesn't feel right, JT.
You know, Mom, I was thinking the same thing. Why don't we slip into something a little more comfortable?
Let's.
Woo!
Woo!
Cheers.
Cheers.
And we are proud to bring on to the podcast our good friend, Keto Savage. You guys know him at Keto Savage. Robert is an awesome dude, and we are super stoked to have him on the Is Vodka Keto podcast. So let's loop him in. All right, so we are here with the Is Vodka Keto podcast and our good friend Keto Savage, Robert Sikes. How you doing, Robert?
I'm great. Appreciate y'all taking the time and having me on here.
Hey, we appreciate you coming. So just to get everything started out for our people who don't know you, do you want to give us a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so I am Robert Sikes, the Keto Savage online. I started doing natural bodybuilding when I was about a junior in high school and did that for about 6-7 years. Then I stumbled on the keto by accident, and that was about 7 years ago now. I haven't looked back since. It's helped me earn my pro card status from the natural bodybuilding realm. I did that in 2017, which is when I also developed the keto brick. And that's kind of how you and I got connected, because we both have a ketogenic meal, food. So that's kind of how our paths crossed. But yeah, I've been in the keto space now for 7+ years. I've got multiple businesses, and I'm just loving every minute of it.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Absolutely.
what got you into bodybuilding?
I was super small. I was 115 pounds, I think, when I started. So I was like the scrawny guy. And my uncle was the more athletic guy in the family. He was outgoing. He played football. And I kind of wanted to emulate that. So he took me under his wing, showed me how to do a bicep curl. And I just took it to the next level and started diving into the world of bodybuilding and just fell in love with it. I started watching a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do proper form and technique, and started doing it myself. First year of working out was like just with tractor equipment and pieces of steel I had laying around the shop. And then I got a gym membership, and then now I've got my own gym, and I just keep scaling it up because I just love everything that is bodybuilding.
Nice. Okay, so then I got the question, as someone who loves working out, but definitely has I've run into plateaus. Let me ask you this: like, so you have this keto brand, you're very involved in the keto space. Like, when you're bulking, do you stay keto, or do you kind of have keto more for when you're cutting?
I have not deviated from keto in the 7+ years I've been doing keto. So I'll do it in the building phase as well. I'll have more calories in the building phase. Like, I'll just make sure I'm in a caloric surplus, eat more proteins, eat more fats, but I haven't had a carbohydrate based meal in that 7.5 year span.
Wow.
Nice. Okay.
Awesome.
So you're a testament to the fact that you can bulk up on keto, and that it's not, you're not throwing away all of your gains by doing keto.
I hope so. Hopefully people look at me and they feel that is the case.
Well, it's I feel like on the internet, the people who are going to say, oh, well, you have to have carbs to bulk. It's like the people who are not sitting with their pro card and their, entire Keto Savage empire.
There's a lot of trolls online for sure. And I mean, there's always just naysayers, but for me, like, I just want to document what I've done. I don't ever want to be dogmatic with my nutrition. I mean, people are able to get lean and do incredibly well with a variety of diets. But for me, keto has certainly worked best. For my clients, it's worked best. So simply documenting what I've learned in that process, and then people do with it as they may, has been what I've tried to emulate going forward.
Nice. So, like, run me through a year. Do you do like one bulking cycle and one cutting cycle per year, or do you have multiple throughout the year?
Yeah, so I do. I compete in natural bodybuilding. So when you're a natural competitor, not taking steroids and other performance enhancing drugs, what happens to you hormonally and metabolically is pretty taxing going through the course of a competition prep. So I'll typically prep for usually about 4 to 6 months leading up to the show. So I'm dieting down over that 4 to 6 month span. And then I'll take 2 or 3 months after the competition to reverse diet back up to a healthy maintenance intake. And then I'll spend the next 2 to 3 years in a maintenance or building phase before I lean down again. So a lot of people make the mistake of cutting down multiple times a year or every year. And that just doesn't really let their metabolic rate return to a healthy baseline, let their hormones return to a healthy baseline. And that holds true whether you're competing or not. Like, I mean, most of my clients are actually middle-aged women that aren't trying to compete or step on stage. They're just simply trying to be healthy. And I see so many people chronically under-eating, restricting their calories, and wrecking their hormonal balance and their metabolic rate.
So let me ask, as just a kind of, for all the people who may not understand, reverse dieting, can you walk me through, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, it's basically just the reverse of dieting. So when people think of dieting, they think of cutting calories, dropping their intake, eating less food. With reverse dieting, it's a strategic increase of calories over a period of time. So like when I'm dieting down for a show, over that 4 to 6 month span, slowly dropping my calories. Like right now, my maintenance intake is about 3,000 calories, and I'll get down to about 1,600 or so come show day. After the show is over, I'll slowly increase from that 1,600 back up to 3,000 or so over the course of a few months. And that slow increase in calories allows me to return to that healthy maintenance intake, ideally without putting on a bunch of unnecessary body fat.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense. So like your macro levels, where do you keep them at? And is it the same pretty much, just moving that calorie amount around? No,
so my macros change quite a bit. Like I'll start a prep at a high fat ratio of about 80% of my calories coming from dietary fat. And then I've got like a 7-phase protocol that I've developed and go through and take my clients through. But depending on the phase they're in, they'll actually have periods where their protein is increasing, periods where their protein is decreasing, periods where their fat is decreasing. And then towards the end of a cut, I'll implement strategic caloric refeeds. So that'll be comprised of an increase in both dietary fat and protein for an overall increase in calories. But those are only leveraged about 6 weeks out from the peak of that cutting protocol. But yeah, carbs stay pretty much non-existent. I mean, 10 grams total carbs throughout the entire period. And then depending on what phase I'm in or my clients are in, they'll have higher fat ratios or higher protein. I never really take their protein above about, I mean, their fat is always pretty much 60% of total calories at a minimum. I've had a few clients that do well beneath that, but I'm never having, like their protein from a caloric distribution standpoint exceed that of their fat. Okay, because that will kick them out of ketosis just by the dint of your body being able to break that excess protein down into sugar, right? Yeah, well, protein's great. I mean, it's kind of funny because I've been in the space for so long. I've seen these different cycles and pendulums swing, so to speak. So for a while there, it was everybody was afraid of protein. They didn't want to consume protein. They assumed it would turn to chocolate cake when they ate it. And then now you see the exact opposite. You see everybody giving protein this halo at the expense of enough dietary fat. And as is true with most things in life, the answer lies somewhere in the middle. So if you're consuming, I mean, protein is great, but it's not a great substrate for energy. Like you need it for building and recovering and maintaining muscle tissue, but you're not going to benefit from a performance optimization standpoint if you're deriving your energy from protein. So that needs to either come from carbs or fats. If you're fat adapted, ideally it's going to come from fats. So if you're taking in so much protein that you're not be able to put those calories to use with enough dietary fat, you're not going to perform optimally. And if you start to suffer from a performance standpoint, you're not going to be able to train as hard. And if that's the case, then you're not going to be able to preserve the muscle tissue that you have. Nice. Okay. So how many times a week do you think that people should be training? Or is it dependent upon your body type and your goals? Yeah, largely dependent upon body type, goals, somebody's schedule, what's going to be more sustainable for them. So I'm typically training with resistance weights, 5-6 times a week. I'm doing something active every single day. But I mean, there's people that are simply sedentary and don't move at all. So for them, doing like a body weight movement or like a resistance band movement, once, twice, 3 times a week is going to be significantly better than nothing. So kind of coming to people where they're at and then just scaling up from there as they're able. What does that rest day look like for you? So right now I've got a 50-mile march in 2 weeks. So I've been kind of prepping for that 50-mile march. So my rest days now are pretty much walking 12 miles, hiking 12 miles, but I don't really have a rest day per se, because even if I'm not weight training, I'm doing MMA, jiu-jitsu, I'm hiking, I'm doing something like that. But a rest day from the resistance training is simply giving my body, my CNS, central nervous system, a break from the heavy resistance training. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So I actually 15 minutes ago, before we jumped on, got home from a little training. I'm down at Gracie Baja. So shout out Gracie.
Do you lift on days where you roll, or do you kind of separate those out?
Yeah, so I'm just getting new into this, man. Like my one of my employees, he's big into MMA, and we were all sitting there in the morning meeting one day, and he's like, we ought to get some MMA going with the crew. So there's 8 people on our team right now, and I'm like, okay, let's just do this. On Thursdays, we'll clock out an hour early, and I bought some really nice Zebra MMA mats. So I've got half of the gym covered in mats, and we just all spend their Thursday afternoon punching, kicking, and rolling with each other. So it's pretty good. So take some. If my employees, got to take some frustration out on them, just got to punch them in the face.
Well, my girlfriend's been pushing for mats at the house for a while now. She's just like, "Come on, John, I just need to beat you."
Yeah. Mats are no joke. Like for a while there, we didn't have mats. Like we just got the mats like a couple weeks ago, and they make all the difference in the world. Like we were doing all this. We weren't rolling without the mats, but we were doing all the striking stuff without the mats. And just simply having mats makes it way, way better.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's because you don't have to worry about if because people don't realize how easy it is to knock someone out. Like you can accidentally knock someone out, and if you stiff up and hit your head on that ground, it can be super rough.
Yeah. It's just injury prevention, having some mats. Plus, like we'll do some stretching and stuff, before the weight training on the mats. Just simply having a soft surface makes a world of difference.
Do you do static stretching before you lift, or do you recommend people do more like mobile stretching?
So dynamic stretching is going to be better prior to lifting. When you think about like squats, for instance, if you're doing, you want to have some muscular elasticity in those heavy movements. And if you do a whole bunch of static stretching before you go into those resistance training movements, you're going to lose some of that elasticity. You're going to lose some of that tension. So you're probably going to be more prone to injury rather than less. So dynamic stretching, in which you're going through the movements at, body weight or with a much lighter load to simply warm up the ligaments, tendons, joints, and muscular tissue is going to be better. This is kind of one of those classic examples of do as I say, not as I do, because I'd hardly ever stretch before I train. I just don't do it. I do some rotator cuff stuff with resistance bands, but I'm the worst about like proactively stretching prior to training.
I'm right there with you. I'll like, it's bad too, especially for jiu-jitsu. Like today, my warm up was, I knew I was a little bit late. So we're here in Houston, and it's hotter than all get out. So I just before I went to the dojo, I put my gi on and my Under Armour and just rolled the windows down, turned the AC off, and I'm just kind of like shaking in the car, like, all right, let's try. Let's hope that nobody who's better than me rips my arm too bad that I can never use it again. But yeah,
man. What made you go with gi over no gi? Like I've always wondered that.
So I actually do both. We do. Originally, I started out in 10th Planet in California, and they're only no gi. And I really, as someone who came from a wrestling background, I wrestled in high school. Like I really, I was resistant to the gi super heavy at first because, if you're going for a shot or any kind of takedown, it's really easy to grab you and stop you if you're wearing a gi, or not really easy, but easier. And I was always kind of like, oh, well, people aren't going to wear gis in real life. Why would I need to train with a gi? But it just really focuses on different parts of your game. Yeah. So I think that going the place that I'm going now, they have gi and no gi at the same time. So it kind of fits into the schedule. And so I've learned to really like the gi. But it's just kind of a little bit different aspects of the game, what you're focusing on.
No, I can totally get behind that. The gis, some of these gis look freaking cool too. Like I kind of want to wear one just for that purpose. But I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like with the gi training, like those are the people that you see all these jacked up fingers because they're grabbing these gis, and I don't really want jacked up fingers. So I'm kind of hesitant in that regard.
So much of it that I've found is like, you can have some dog fights with people where you can really mess up your fingers in the gi. But a lot of it that I've found is knowing how to be calm in the fight, right? Like a lot of times if you're constantly as hard as you can squeezing, like not only are you going to risk messing up your fingers, but you're also going to make yourself really tired. And whenever you pause and you kind of are going for a different move, that people will feel that you're lessening up on that tension and they'll be able to counter it. Whereas if you're just kind of always calm and just waiting for the position to change and then getting your opportunity and taking advantage of it, you'll have a little bit less. I haven't been doing it long enough to have my fingers mangled yet, but I know of many people who have. I'm more worried about the cauliflower ear.
Yeah. That's not a great look either.
It's one of those things where like sometimes, because you can drain it, right? Like you can get a little, insulin needle, and as long as you catch it pretty early, you can just pull the blood out and then you'll be fine. But it's almost like a badge of honor.
You don't do that in front of me, though.
Right? No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know some people who. I mean, one of my best friends is a black belt, and he's been doing it since we were wrestlers in high school. And his ears are just mangled. All the black belts I know, and it's just like they are happy with having ears that come out and are just cauliflower.
Yeah, it's definitely like a badge of honor for them, for sure. And I get it, but it's like I would kind of like to, because like for me, if I'm on a street fight or something, like if someone's come to me thinking they're going to pull one over on me, I wouldn't want them to think like, I would want them to I would want to have the element of surprise. So if I've got ears that look like I've been fighting for like 50 years, that's definitely going to remove my element of the surprise.
Right. Yeah. You want to be able to smoke them. But like, it's funny because this guy is a savage, right? And my friend, Eric, he really can. I've never met anybody who could beat him at anything. He's just seriously one of those freak athletes. Yeah. But the most humble, and all the black belts I know, they're just, oh no, man, it's cool. Like, we don't want, like, if you really try to fight them, they will hurt you badly. But if you're just like, at a bar and getting drunk, they're the first guys who are like, hey man, we're being cool. We just want to have a couple beers and go home. And then like when you make them turn it on, then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, my arm is broken.
Yeah. No, I got a lot of respect for people that do martial arts for the right reasons, and they think of it as a discipline. And they're like truly stoic in nature. They have like the right mental approach to it all. Like it's an art form without a doubt. Which is why I've been getting into it lately, because it's like chess. I mean, you learn, and you could do jiu-jitsu or any MMA for that matter, like every single day of your waking existence, and you still wouldn't perfect the sport. And that to me is admirable.
Oh, absolutely. It's a constantly evolving art form. It really is always exciting, because as soon as you think that you've got something, it's like, no, someone has found a way to counter it. There's some other move, there's some other technique or style that's really just going to make you have to reevaluate what you're doing. And I'm right there with you on that.
Awesome, man. Love it.
So to backtrack a little bit, you said that you have a 7-step program. Where could people go to find, to sign up for that program? How could our listeners get a little more information?
Yeah, so I put all of my stuff's on YouTube and the podcast. But if you're trying to like assimilate all of that broad range of information, it's going to take forever. So like I wrote a book earlier this year that published in January, and it's just called Ketogenic Bodybuilding, a Natural Athlete's Guide to Competitive Savagery. And that basically outlines my 7-phase protocol for body composition with a ketogenic approach. I'm in the process of building out a companion course that accompanies that book. But that's going to be like, there's already over 180 videos in the pipeline for that course. So it's going to be an incredibly big endeavor, but hopefully that'll be coming out at the turn of the year for sure.
Awesome. So can people find that on Amazon, and do you have an audio version of it?
Not yet. I'm going to record the audio version of the book, but yeah, the book's on Amazon. And then it's also, I've got a dedicated website for the book. So ketogenicbodybuilding.com for that. And people that want to go that route, they can download this companion spreadsheet that's on that website, so they can use that as a resource as well. But yeah, I mean, just natural bodybuilding, body recomposition, preserving muscle tissue, building muscle tissue, and losing fat. Like those are my expertise and just interest within the sport. So being able to help people with that has been incredibly fulfilling for me.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll link to that to make sure people can grab your book, and then everyone make sure you follow Robert at Keto Savage. Am I right? Any other places they can find you?
Keto Savage and Keto Brick for the brick. So ketobrick.com for those if people want that. But yeah, Keto Savage is the main place.
Nice. You guys have any new bricks coming out?
Always, man. We're always working on some new flavors. Y'all know how it is. Y'all are in the kitchen a bunch. There's always something new to try out, some new flavor, some new test, some new tweak. But yeah, always something in the pipeline.
Awesome. Well, everyone, make sure you go and grab yourself a keto brick. They're delicious. And follow Robert so that you can look like him.
Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely, Robert. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Is Vodka Keto is brought to you by Ketonia. For the most delicious keto baked goods, stop by ketoniafoods.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on all social media at Ketonia Foods. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It does more than you know. We'll see you next Friday.